Welcome to our weekly conversations on artificial intelligence with thought leaders in Africa. My name is Zenzele Ndlovu. I am the head of research and market development at Machine Learning Africa. We attempt to provide insight into AI and other emerging technologies and their inevitable impact in transforming business and the broader society. Please check out our upcoming event, the AI Business Conference. You can register for free at aiconference.co.za. We are continuing again today with Johan Steyn, the chair of the Artificial Intelligence and Robotics group with the IIPPSA. And we have a special guest, the amazing, inspirational Dr. Jacques Ludik. I will ask Johan to introduce Jacques. Johan?
Fantastic. Zenzele, thank you so much. I'm always amazed with how many amazing organizations are in our own country when it comes to this technology. You know, we often just hear the news from Silicon Valley and elsewhere, but Dr. Jacques is one of the prominent people in our local market doing great things. So Jacques is the founder and the CEO of Cortex Logic and the Cortex Group. He's the founder and the president of the Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa and also the founder of Sapien.network. Jacques, it's an honor for us. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Johan. Thank you very much, Zenzele, for that nice introduction. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jacques, in your book, Democratizing Artificial Intelligence to Benefit Everyone, you talk about your massive transformative purpose, which is to see business and society thrive in this smart technology era, as you term it. You know, and this is evidenced by your work with MIA, you know, and the community that you have created around innovation and assisting organizations actually to thrive. You know, and maybe putting this together with the title of your book, you seem to believe that anyone can participate in this technology. There are some misconceptions, about AI implementation being costly, and maybe at a business level, how can small and medium-sized enterprises, participate in this digital transformation or the smart technology era?
Yeah, Zenzele, thanks. That's a key question, and if you look at the SMEs, they are very much a very important part of the economy, and it's also a way for people to express themselves economically as well, and also to find meaning. And just to give the broader context around that, yes, my massive transformative purpose is how to shape a better future in the smart technology era. I talk about the smart technology era. Some people talk about the fourth industrial revolution. I believe it's not just the industrial type of play. We're clearly in a digital revolution as well. So there's multiple revolutions that play here, and they play off one another. And it's transformative. It's changing things. And that's why we need visionary leadership. We need proper execution. We need to assist people to participate and share the benefits of this transformative technology. This is exponential technology. We see these kind of changes around us. It feels unreal sometimes. If you see some of the things happening in a short space of time, it's almost like Bill Gates was always saying that you almost kind of underestimate what you can do in 10 years, but you overestimate what you do in a year. But it's really that type of thing here. So and the book is really talking to that. And you actually had a loaded question there, because how do you tie democratizing artificial intelligence to benefit everyone, including the SMEs, the stakeholders, communities, individuals, with the smart technology? How can create this better future? And I think it's it's what I've tried to do in the book was try to obviously it's a synthesis, and it's trying to make sense of what's happening across multiple industries where you find SMEs or small, medium enterprise businesses within each of these industries. And I'm actually covering, my fourth chapter is about AI-driven digital transformation of the business enterprise. And that is not just for a big enterprise and a big company. That's relevant for every business, because as you work with data, you can benefit. You can touch your customers with intelligent virtual assistants. You've got AI implemented there. You can mine the data. You can try and implement solutions that will help your business. But for me, it's not just about using the tools like that. It is also, what about the benefits? How can we monetize the data and your services? How can we break it down so that not only the tech giants and the big corporates are benefiting from that? So that's why I'm very much I'm arguing for a decentralized world where we can, because that's a better world to democratize on all levels. And you still need governments and so forth, but you can have more decentralized communities that's looking after, in city states and towns, that is interconnected like the internet, but it's just like all these nodes where you can start with individuals and families and communities and make the future more local and more human. So I think there's a huge opportunity to do that. And it touches on SMEs. So, and when I talk about even Sapiens, the human-centric, user-controlled, AI-driven super platform, it's almost giving every entity, an individual, a community, a SME, a small little business, a bigger business, a town, a municipality, give them an AI agent that's trying to optimize the world for that entity, for the individual, starting with the individual, and then making sure that one can monetize the data and the services of all the entities as they are connected in the world. And we should break down barriers to do that. So currently we make it very difficult with obviously all sorts of interaction with different countries or different regions, and everybody's trying to be very protective. But we need to realize we are one humanity, we're one global civilization. And we just, it's almost like a body. If my knee and my ankle is really sore, my body, I'm going to feel it. It's not good. So I want to make sure that we need to look after all parts of our body. And it starts with the individual elements. It starts with the building blocks. So I think there's huge opportunities. The book is really also about showing SMEs how they can do the transformation, but then showing some use cases, practical use cases across industries. So when I've divided industries, you obviously get SMEs that sits in the consumer-facing businesses, financial services, retail, all those kind of businesses. And then there's more the industrial side as well. It could be agriculture, it could be manufacturing, all of those type of things as well. And in there, I'm actually going through all the different use cases and showing what can be done. And even if people say, AI, it's not that important and transformative, what this book is showing, look at what's already happening in the last, say, 10 years. It is amazing what's happening, and you can't avoid it almost. And then I also cover something that's very close to my heart is the whole education and healthcare and wellness. So obviously from a Cortex Logic side and Cortex Group side, we are very focused on AI-driven, personalized platform businesses and things that we create. And that's really also playing into help to shape a better future in the smart technology era. So you do that with AI-enabled personalized education, precision healthcare, wellness, all of that. And I think it's very important for Africa. We need to think out of the box. We need to spend our money wisely of governments of Africa, the money that's coming in from an international perspective. Are we optimally spending that money to educate and looking at education and healthcare and wellness? And right now we see even mental health, how many people are struggling. And I think with COVID-19, you see how people struggle. So that is a very, very important area. And there's some really exciting healthcare initiatives happening. Just quickly not only from a Cortex, it's like separate to Cortex, we're also looking at an AI Africa VC fund We will make some announcements about that shortly. And then we will really zoom in and focus on these kind of things like healthcare or agriculture, education, and so forth. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, I think government has got a huge role to play, public sector, a leading role to play. So I do have a chapter that talks about AI's impact on society, governments, and the public sector. And I think, and obviously we can have some questions on that as well. I'm sure we're going to dive into those kind of things as well. And the latter part of the book is obviously I'm talking about the future of AI, where people talk about superintelligence and artificial general intelligence. And I really painstakingly look at the AI debates, the progress, and the likely future paths of AI. And then started, all of that is a foundation for why we talk about democratizing AI, because it's about beneficial outcomes for humanity. How can we create that beneficial outcomes? And I'm talking about that. But anyway, we can talk about that further.
So I try and read a book a week, but I must say you messed up my planning because it's 520 odd pages. But
you can just choose the parts that you really like because it's written like that.
That is what I like. Is there's certain sections, like you mentioned, education and healthcare. So I've been jumping around the book a bit. What I like about it is, I mean, it's very comprehensive, well-researched, footnotes. Yeah. Any person can read it. You don't have to be a techie or working in this field. Yeah. And I also like the philosophical, almost future of humanity kind of lens, because a lot of these books and talks are very techie, platform specific. Yeah. But, you know, I often on these videos, I speak about the fact I'm a father and I think about my 7-year-old's future and what is going to happen to him and his friends. So I think it's the book made me think a lot about you know, it's almost like I think when they discovered nuclear power and yes, you know, realizing they can destroy the world with this, and we are there, but amplified. So it's a great book, and I want to encourage people to read it. I think maybe, having said all that, the question I have is what's maybe the main reason why you decided to write a book like this?
Yes, and again, a fantastic question. Thanks for that. I really appreciate that. And I want to say, just to comment very quickly on that, the book is definitely written for the layman. There are here and there a little section that's maybe you need a little bit more knowledge, but it's just for completeness sake, because we do have those people in the audience that want to go into the nitty-gritty. What is the state of the art in AI? But in general, the book is really, as you say, for the layman, it's got a philosophical slant to it as well, because I don't think you can have AI just operating or in an isolated way. You got to think about the big picture. What are we trying to achieve here? And that alludes to now to your question as well, in terms of what is the main thing that I would love to get out of this. And it really ties in. That's why the massive transformative purpose is so important. My own massive transformative purpose of shaping a better future. What can I do as in my little corner of the world, just make a contribution. So for our children's sake and children's sake, and for society and humanity's sake, is there something that we can contribute? Because that also gives meaning to myself. I've got a chapter that deals with we're talking about what does it mean to be human and living meaningful in the 21st century? And it's so interesting, even if you look at a guy like Lex Friedman with all his interviews, and I found it very informative and inspirational, a lot of the inputs from there. But it gives you kind of a thinking of how people think about that as well. But I think it's so important. So to one, not only think about yourself, you think about the big picture. You think about South Africa, think about Africa. And you want to be sensible about your solutions. So, and for me, it's actually quite urgent if I think about it. We can easily go on, and I'm talking about the problematic trajectory of our current civilization in smart technology era. There's people like Daniel Smachtenberger that's arguing that we are really heading for disaster, catastrophic risks. And we know it's a dangerous world. We've actually entered a massively dangerous world because it could go very, very quickly, very wrong. And it's not just external things, it's things that we create. So we as humanity are our biggest enemies. But if we are visionary and smart about the way we go about things, and we should also try and focus more on character, on substance, not the superficial kind of things. And I'm talking about the book about that. So for me, as you would notice, I'm introducing a massive transformative purpose for humanity. Now you can say, oh, that's bold and stuff. But I've looked at what others are doing, and I've looked at United Nations, their 2030 vision. And if you read it carefully, you'll see it's actually great. It's fantastic if we can get it right. And they do have the Sustainable Development Goals, which is fantastic. But there's some, but what they find in practice, they struggle to implement those goals because it's difficult. It's not easy. So we've got to think out of the box with solutions. So what I'm trying to do in the book is to not only talk about AI and its transformative power, but talking about that future that we can create if we're visionary and we think carefully about everything, what we can do to actually make a difference in this world. So I'm very excited about that. I'm going to have podcasts. I'm going to talk about that. I'm not just as my contribution, and I hope that we can get more people excited about that and not focus on the negatives, because there are negatives, and we need to think about how can we get away from that, or at least manage those kind of risks, because there are clear risks. And I've tried to be objective as well, because there's real, you can't just paint a beautiful picture without being very practical and realistic about how things can go wrong. So we've got to say, how can we prevent that? And so I've got specific chapters talking about beneficial human-centric future. So, yeah, so for me, it's about practical outcomes. And that's why I'm even suggesting Sapiens. This is just an idea, and I hope it grows, even if you've got other people implementing it. And for me, it could be, that's almost like a contribution for the world. The book is just a contribution so that people can say, let's think carefully about beneficial outcomes for humanity, because it's very important what we do over the next few years. We could mess it up tremendously for the next century if we don't do it right here. And if we don't show examples of how you use AI, even within platform businesses, we know that platform businesses is driving so much of the economy right now. The biggest companies in the world, Tesla, all these companies are platform businesses, multi-sided platform businesses, and they are monetizing data and services for their benefit. How can we turn that around? So that's where we are. So it's quite urgent. I feel very passionately about this. It makes it very real for me. So yeah, very excited. Great question.
Great. Thank you, Jacques, for that. You mentioned very importantly the importance of visionary leadership, and of course, you talk about working together, as the public sector and the private sector and all the community. And you give also an analogy in your book that this technology is like a runaway train, or a car that keeps on accelerating, and the only thing that you can do is to control the steering.
That's the introduction. You've read it.
yes, absolutely. And I'm just wondering if we will be able to keep pace with this, fast changing technology. I mean, every day there's a new ways of doing things. There's a new technology. Are we going to be able to keep pace?
That's such a key question there, and it is exactly like that. We as humans, we see time linear. We feel like, is it really exponential? Sometimes we get the surprise when we see these kind of exponential curves, and we know that not all exponential curves just goes on forever. It's like a sigmoidal, but they tapers off. But there's a lot of exponential curves, and they all are interfacing with one another, and they're creating more exponential curves. So this could be here for a long time. And that's why I think it's the second last chapter, I'm talking about 21st century skills, competencies, and jobs for a human-centric AI-driven workplace. And so we are the humans that's shaping. We've created all this kind of technology and stuff. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we upskill ourselves to adapt. So even if we say we need to slow things down if we are not ready from a mature, but I'm not sure, it is like a runaway train. So it's either you step up or you're going to lose out. And unfortunately we just created this thing. So we have to deal with it. Unfortunately we can, but we just need to make time also to think, to value, to go slow as well. And even if we can use technology to help us go slow as humans, even if the AI-driven stuff is working at a fast pace and stuff, as humans, we need to say, what does it mean to be human? And how can we live meaningful lives? We build character and feel we build good families and good communities. Because if you've got that right, then obviously that's going to help. So, but you can see it touches on so many, the fabric of civilization and humanity. So we need different stakeholders. I can't just here on my own write a book, thank you, make a contribution, and then hope that would solve everything. That's why, as you look at President Cyril Ramaphosa, he's got an important role to play. We've got guys like Professor Tshilidzi Marwala. I just love everyone that's trying to move us in the right direction. What Johan, what you're doing, and obviously Zenzele, what you are doing, everything is making a contribution. And as long as we can get to practical steps where we can really show tangible results, and that's why I think we need to get it right in cities, in towns, show how it could be done. And it's like maybe as a two-pronged type of strategy. You have got to have a top-down strategy from a government perspective and regional perspective, but then there's a bottom-up as well. And we need to empower citizens to deal with this in an appropriate way. I would put so much focus and money. That's why educating people to deal with the fourth industrial revolution, with the smart technology era, I think it's hugely important. And we can use AI. So we're making our little contribution from a business side, where we say, let's help people just with their mental health and overall wellness, and even financial wellness, how they can be better equipped. And we've got AI agents that is supporting people. So 24/7. And we also have a vehicle to connect to specialists where you can go to a helpline. If you've got, say, a teenager that's struggling and stuff, and we know about suicides and people, everybody's struggling. And there's some other problems that comes into play. It's obviously, if you think about social media, information overload, not only that, but also, I think there's some good and bad with that. How do we alleviate the bad? Can we have an AI agent that protect us from manipulation, for instance? In the book, I talk about the psychological manipulation vectors and all sorts of different things where you can see how social media, even Facebook, how these kind of companies are driving their agenda, or at least from a business side, and is it beneficial for society? So there's so many layers and so many things to unpack, and not everything that the social media giants are doing is bad. There's some good stuff and bad stuff, and they're also trying to figure things out. I'm sure but there's a business as well. So, but as long as we steer in the right direction. But anyway, so I think I've answered your question.
Absolutely. It's very important that we democratize artificial intelligence. It's a must-read book. If you want to participate in this era of digital transformation, or the smart technology era, as Jacques termed it. So thank you so much. We're continuing with these technologies discussions on artificial intelligence. Let's meet again next week and discuss and hear more about this. The more we understand, the more we dispel all the fears and misconceptions around these technologies, and the more confident we face the future and change our lives. That talks about better futures, and that's what we're striving for. Let's all strive for that. Thank you so much, and thank you, Johan, as well. We really appreciate. We're grateful, and I think there's a lot of things that we yet to discuss when it comes to the technology. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Johan and Zenzele. It's great to talk to you guys. I'm looking forward to any future discussions. There's so much to unpack. And yeah, fantastic. Thanks for all the great work that you guys are doing.